Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. Look, we are going to be tackling a massive, incredibly important decision that pretty much every single growing business faces at some point. How exactly do you build your digital home? Today, we're unpacking the true cost of DIY websites versus hiring a professional Elementor web design agency. And we'll specifically be looking at the expert approaches of agencies like Viral Chili. If you're serious about your business growth and you want to understand why bringing in the pros significantly beats the do-it-yourself route, well, you are in exactly the right place. So, building a website, DIY or agency. Let's be completely honest with ourselves here. We have all been tempted by those targeted ads promising a free and easy website in just a few minutes. I mean, it sounds fantastic for the budget, right? It's incredibly tempting to just jump in and do the whole shebang yourself to save some cash. But we really have to ask ourselves a tough question. Is this approach actually saving you money, or is it quietly costing you customers behind the scenes? Okay, let's dive into this. Your website is your first salesperson. I really want that foundational truth to sink in right out of the gate. Your website, it's not just a static digital brochure. It is an active, vital investment. It dictates a customer's very first impression of your entire brand. Think about it. If your real-life first-string salesperson was messy, slow, and hard to understand, you're going to lose the sale, right? Well, online, it really is that simple too. So, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to do a quick head-to-head comparison, covering 1, the DIY trap, 2, first impressions, 3, mobile readiness, 4, saving time and scaling up, and finally, the agency versus solo freelancer debate. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the DIY website trap. It is time we challenge the pervasive myth of the free and easy DIY website build. You know, the hidden realities of these DIY builders are honestly quite stark. While platforms prioritize making things super easy for you to just drag and drop, they often end up creating a really messy, frustrating experience for your actual customer. We are talking about the dreaded spinning wheel of death for loading times, and ultimately a site that just absolutely fails to convert your hard-earned visitors into paying customers. And you know what the most damaging hidden cost might be? A poorly designed DIY site basically signals to potential clients that your business might be inexperienced or, worse, simply not serious enough to invest in its own brand. You lose credibility instantly. Moving on to Section 2, first impressions and conversions. We need to talk about how incredibly fast potential clients evaluate your business online. Now, what's really interesting about this stat is 0.05 seconds. That is just a tiny fraction of a single second, literally faster than the blink of an eye. According to the research, that is exactly how long it takes for a visitor to form an opinion about your website based entirely on its visual design quality. Boom! In the blink of an eye, they've judged you. Professional designers totally understand this. They use color psychology, proper white space, typography, and visual hierarchy to instantly establish trust before the user even reads a single word. And honestly, the reality gets even harsher here. 60%. 60% of visitors are going to abandon your website entirely if it takes more than 2 seconds to load. 2 seconds. Because DIY website builders prioritize ease of use for you, they often generate bloated, heavy code behind the scenes. It's kind of like packing a massive, overstuffed suitcase for a quick weekend trip. It absolutely destroys your load times. And beautiful design means absolutely nothing if the visitor gets frustrated and leaves before your page even finishes loading. So when you contrast these two approaches, the DIY method basically relies entirely on guesswork and templates to figure out what might look good. But a professional Elementor agency, like Viral Chili, optimizes for one crucial thing: conversions. They focus relentlessly on page speed, precise button placement, and clear calls to action. They aren't guessing. They're using rigorous A/B testing to determine what actually drives user behavior. It's a systematic science versus, well, just hoping for the best. All right, Section 3, mobile readiness and security. Let me be perfectly clear here. These two elements are absolutely non-negotiable for any business operating today. To put this into perspective, mobile devices now drive over 61% of all global web traffic. That is the vast majority of your audience looking at your site on a small screen. DIY builders often just slap together a mobile template that functions poorly and looks, frankly, mediocre. And the stakes are incredibly high here. Mobile visitors are 5 times more likely to abandon a website that isn't optimized for their specific device. An agency, on the other hand, builds mobile first from the ground up, making sure every button is thumb-friendly and every single form works flawlessly without making the user pinch and zoom. Then there's the critical issue of security and your digital ecosystem. DIY platforms basically lock you into their closed system. If your business outgrows them and you want to migrate, get ready because you're facing massively expensive rebuilds. Plus, because thousands of inexperienced users are making configuration mistakes on these shared platforms, vulnerabilities are super common. In contrast, an expert Elementor agency like Viral Chili builds on the flexible open-source WordPress platform, which means you actually own your website outright. They maintain industry-standard custom security protocols, handle the complex server configurations, and apply immediate patch updates to keep your data locked down and completely safe. Which brings us to Section 4, saving time and scaling up. Let's talk about the actual investment of your personal time and why an agency is the ultimate way to reduce your stress and scale operations efficiently. Now, you might be wondering why we're specifically talking about Elementor agencies today. Well, currently, Elementor powers a massive 40 to 50% of the WordPress page builder market. And why is it dominating? Because it perfectly balances incredibly fast page load times with advanced professional customization capabilities right out of the box. And it does all that without requiring heavy coding knowledge that usually bogs down a site. Let's move on and see how this builds out in the real world. Here is the structured process a professional agency utilizes. It starts with discovery, moves right into design mockups, then development, rigorous testing, and finally, launch. It's a completely stress-free system for you as the business owner. You don't need to spend your late nights learning design theory, SEO fundamentals, or how to troubleshoot broken plugins. You simply provide feedback and they guide you smoothly all the way to a polished launch. So the crucial point here is this timeline and the massive opportunity cost it represents. The DIY approach typically means 3 to 6 months of pulling your hair out over broken formatting, constant troubleshooting, and lost business while your online presence just sits in limbo. The agency route, 4 to 8 weeks of zero stress, delivering a beautiful, fully complete, and conversion-ready site. Spending half a year fumbling through web design is going to cost you far more in lost opportunities than simply hiring an agency up front. And the satisfaction data backs this up entirely. An impressive 73% of companies that worked with professional design agencies reported higher customer satisfaction compared to the companies trying to use DIY approaches. Simply put, when you invest in professional systems, you get professional, satisfying results. Almost at the finish line, Section 5, agency or solo freelancer. This directly addresses a really common dilemma. You might be thinking, hey, if I'm going to pay for help, shouldn't I just hire a single freelancer instead of a whole agency? Well, when you hire an agency like Viral Chili, you are guaranteed reliability. If your primary designer gets sick, another one steps right in. A solo freelancer might just ghost you entirely right before a huge deadline. For accountability, agencies offer written revision rounds and professional project management, whereas freelancers can be highly variable. And for support, an agency provides ongoing strategic management, rather than just a single, isolated project focus. Ultimately, you are paying for a proven process, not just coding skills. Finally, there's the critical factor of scalability. Because your website isn't actually finished on launch day, that's just the beginning. Agencies handle the heavy lifting of complex scaling, like adding advanced analytics or integrating WooCommerce so you can actually sell products online as you grow. But importantly, because they use systems like Elementor, they leave you in full control to easily log in and update your own text, photos, and blogs without ever worrying about breaking the entire site's architecture. Which brings us to our conclusion. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Is your website costing you money right now, or is it making sales? Think about the slow load times, the lost mobile conversions, all those hours of frustration. Professional web design is not just a line item expense. It is a vital, ongoing investment in your digital business. The choice is clear if you want to compete at the absolute highest level. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this gave you the clarity to supercharge your digital strategy moving forward.